In this video, we're going to look at the different types of translations. So translations, two types are, we have a horizontal translation, which means that we move it left or right, and a vertical translation, up or down. So if we take a point here, we take the point, say 2, 4, here, and now we want to translate this point. So if I want to translate it 4 units to the left, you see the point would move 1, 2, 3, 4 over, and the coordinates would become -2, 4. So what indeed you're doing is you're just taking 4 away from the x value. If we want to then translate the point down, so if we moved it down 2, you see the point would go to 2, 2. If you want to move it down 5, it's going to go down to 2 minus 1. If you want to move it to the right, you would add on to the x value. So if I moved it 1 unit in the positive direction of the x-axis, this coordinate would go to 3, 4. So we're going to use this to work out how we use function notation to get the graphs and look at the points also. So firstly, let's take a more detailed look at horizontal translation. So if we were to shift this coordinate, and we can move it, let's say we move it 5 to the left. And you can see what's going to happen is it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over here. And that point is going to become -3, 4. So under this translation here, we have the point 2, 4. It's going to therefore turn into -3, 4. So we want to think about this in more general terms. So we can think of this point instead of what it actually is, x and y. And then if we were going to move that point xy 5 to the left, then what it would actually become is it would become x minus 5 and y. And this is how we find out how to use interval notation. So when you transform a point into another point under transformations, we call that the image. So this would be the image of xy would be x minus 5y. And when you have the image, you can always refer to that as x dash y dash. That is your new x value and your new y value under the transformations. So therefore, what we can say is here, we can say that, well, our new x value, x dash, turned into x minus 5. Y dash, well, y didn't change, so y dash just equals y. Now, if I then want to rearrange this, you see, into the original x value, x is going to equal x dash plus 5. And y is just going to equal y dash. And we're going to use these to calculate what a point is. So if we think about having a point here, and say this is a parabola. So this is y equals x squared that I'm drawing here. So this is y equals x squared. So we're going to use this, and we're going to transform the function y equals x squared into the new function under this transformation here of moving it 5 to the left. And then we'll make sure that this point lies on the new function. So the original function is y equals x squared. So what I do if I want to transform a new function is you're going to replace x with x plus 5. And you're going to replace y just with y. So even though it says y dash, when you're substituting it in, you forget about the dashes. So when we transform this, y is going to remain the same as with a horizontal translation. Y will not change, but x is going to be replaced by x plus 5. So this is why when we do horizontal translations, it goes the opposite way of what you think it's going to be. And that's going to give you the actual point. So you see when we translated that point, we moved it over 5, it goes to -3, 4. So if we say when x equals -3, then we should get that value of 4. And indeed, if we add that, we're going to get 2 squared, which is indeed going to be 4. So you'll see that that point does lie on the new function, but that's how you generate the new function. So when you're using horizontal translations, here we will have f of x plus b. When b is a positive number, that is going to be, you'll be shifting it left. Okay, so it's going to be a horizontal translation, but it's going to be to the left. And the reason for that is when we rearrange this point, you see, then it changes. So that's going to be left. And then when b is less than 0, that is going to be, you're going to be shifting it right. Okay, so left and right. But you should know that from the parabolas. Looking at the vertical translation, so again, if we look at the point that we've got here, so if we're going to move this point, so say we can move this point, let's do a vertical translation, we'll move it 3 down. So if we move it 3 down, this point is going to become 2, 1. So let's just, again, do it in general terms. So this point, instead of 2, 4, we can do it in general terms, we'll call it x, y. Therefore, this point is going to translate, x is going to stay the same, but we moved it down 3 units. So this point is going to become y minus 3. So therefore, you've got your point, and the image of that point under the transformations is going to be x, y minus 3. So again, the image of the point can always be, this is referred to mapping. We can call this x dash, y dash, the new points. So what we've got here is, well, x dash is going to equal x, and y dash is going to equal y minus 3. So then what we do is we make x and y the subject. So x is obviously just x dash, but y is going to be y dash plus 3. So now again, using the function, so we can see clearly that this is going to go, your parabola here, this is y equals x squared again. So when we do this, we've got the function y equals x squared. So what we're going to do is we're going to transform the function and see why this happens. So you're going to replace y with y plus 3 and x with just x. Okay, we forget about the dashes once we rearrange it. So this is going to go y plus 3 equals x squared. And then when we rearrange this, you see, this is therefore going to be x squared minus 3. So that is your vertical translation, moving it down. Yeah, this is why you take away from the function. And again, if we want to check that this point y is on the function, we will say when x equals 2, y is going to equal 2 squared minus 3, which is going to be 1. So therefore, you see that point will indeed lie on our transformed function. So for vertical translations, what we've got is, it's always going to be like this. So f of x plus c. So when c is a positive number, that's going to move it up. And when c is a negative number, that is going to move it down.